Wait, we're rolling? Pre-recorded live before a studio audience of stuffed animals from our Boston studios comes the Comics Coffee Table. Grab a cuppa, whatever it is you're shoving under your nose today. Pull up a chair. Sit beside us. Bring a stack of your own funny books. Make suggestions. We are here and congregating at our very own Comics Coffee Table. The coffee table is where my friends and I used to congregate, hang out, shoot the breeze, and just enjoy each other's company. There'd always be a stack of movies, a stack of music, a stack of books, and a stack of, you guessed it, comic books. What's in the bag? We've got a bag full of funny books from the local comic book shop, LCS. Don't spill your coffee. That hurt. I can bare feet. Wow! Hot cup of coffee. Good morning. Hi. How are you? I hope you're clobbering your problems and not being clobbered by them. Wipe the sleep from your eyes. Whether it's you're waking up or taking a nap. Father, the sleeper has awakened. That's from Dune. Best movie ever. That's a loaded question. We here at the Comics Coffee Table, we like to talk about comic books every day. 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern. Set your watches to it. Oh, look at my wrist. Put on your notifications. Ring that bell. I would love to earn your subscription. Seriously, click on that button right now if you could be so kind. We like to talk about comic books every day here. We're able to do it just for a few minutes in our busy day. We leave the real world over there. We pull up a chair to our Comics Coffee Table and we talk about comics just for a few minutes every day. This year I'm reboarding, rebagging, and reboxing my entire collection. It's an opportunity to get my ass to the local comic book shop to buy supplies. I could be getting supplies from my online supply chain, you know, the one with the free shipping and the built-in TV network at a reduced, rate, not at markup, and free delivery to my home. It doesn't support the local comic book shop, who need our money and attention and our resources the most. The comic book shop is the fulcrum of our culture. It is. It really is. It wasn't the spinner rack. It wasn't the newsstand. It became the comic book shop. You know what I mean? That holy ground, Highlander. It's kind of like quasi holy ground to me. It really is. And we have comic book shop talk there. We talk about comics. We talk about characters. We talk about verses, like imaginary verses. Like my favorite one is Deadpool versus John Wilkes Booth. Who would win? Seriously, put it in the chat. Put it in the comments. Who do you think would win that comic book conversation? Deadpool or John Wilkes Booth? What? Yeah, we agree. It's John Wilkes Booth. Why? Well, the Stand By Me answer. Who would win in a fight between Mighty Mouse and Superman? Superman. Superman's a real guy. Well, Deadpool's a comic book character. John Wilkes Booth is a historical assassin. Advantage, John Wilkes Booth. Of course. Such is the nature of comic book shop style conversation. It's a safe space to be silly, to let your guard down, and to talk to other fans and people that might or might not have more knowledge about a subject than you. Like just this week, we're gonna I'm gonna show the example in this week's poll, this week's stash, this week's bag of funny books. It's New Release Sunday. I got 2 new releases. I spent $76 at my local comic book shop. No supplies. I got 9 gloriously beautiful back issues. It was from the premium rack. It's buy 2 get 1 free. I always thumb through that, and I've been guilty of doing it a few times, but today I nailed it. I saw a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, I'm going to spend some money in my LCS, and I'm fine with that. And I got some buttes, some really nice ones. We're going to go through them all. But it's new release Sunday. Let's see. I was so disappointed. I was disappointed with both my new releases. It was a day of disappointments for new releases, but it was a day to embrace the past. And if you can't find a new comic book to buy at your local comic book shop, dive. Prince Voltan would say, dive! Flash Gordon, Brian Blessed. Well, who wants to live forever? Gordon's alive! I would make a great actor if we ever want. If you're gonna do a remake of Flash Gordon, give me a ring. I'm your Prince Voltan. Excuse me. So I'm getting my supplies. I'm moving from long boxes to short boxes. The older I get, the heavier these things get. So I'm planning ahead, huh? I'm getting bags and boards there at my local comic book shop. And I had a great conversation with the guy. I got a hint from Yule Carter via his awesome show, weekly Tuesdays, 11 p.m. U.S. Eastern. I always catch it in the morning over coffee on Wednesday mornings. So Wednesday mornings have become hanging out with Yule, having coffee. I'll leave the link in the description to Fantastic Comics YouTube page. You should give him a subscribe. He's really cool. And then I'll finish it up Wednesday night or Thursday night, in bedtime. It's a 2-hour long weekly show. He does new releases. He does something called Crack the Slab, which is he takes a slabbed graded book and he frees it from its plastic confines so it can breathe and be read again. I like that. I approve of that. I dig the hell out of that. But Yule said a couple of weeks ago, and I shared with the comic book guy at the register. He's like, yeah, man, I got a buddy who owns a shop in Berkeley, California, and he said that anything 40 cents and under on a cover price, it's a pretty good snag. Snag that, you know what I mean? So I did. I got specifically one, maybe two. We're gonna find out in just a minute. But we're using this opportunity to get a ballpark figure of what my comic book collection is worth. So these books were given to me by my parents last year for Christmas. So this season is dedicated to my parents. Thank you. I got the Overstreet Guide to Grading Comics. This is a great resource, good information. The Overstreet Comic Book Price Guide, 52nd edition. Second year in a row I've bought it. And I will continue to buy a new one every year going forward. It is that important. It's part of your collection. Seriously. You should go for it. There are links in the description to their Amazon pages. You could be playing along at home. And let me know what you found. Hey, I was watching the show, doing my own board, bag, and box, and I found this, and it's worth that. Isn't that cool? Enough suspense, Pika. I mean, everyone's waiting. Anticipating. With bated breath. Look at that one over there. In the cheap seats. All the way in the last row. Hi. I hope you're enjoying the show, too. All right, let's get to it. This is the brown paper bag of funny books that I've been getting since I was a child. Sure that they moseyed on to plastic bags after a while, especially with the decorative logo of the shop and its phone number and an address, because back then we didn't have URLs, Universal Resource Locators, with a hypertext transfer protocol. Did you understand what I just said? I barely did. We got two. So yeah, I mentioned earlier it was a week of disappointments for new releases for me, which is rare because I've been getting a lot of base hits and doubles, off of these, maybe underhanded softballs been thrown at me. maybe, I don't know. I'm not trying not to be judgmental, but to be discerning and to have a sense of criticism, of fan-based criticism from this. What is your there are two types of critics. There are professional critics who are trained, like movie critics. You need to know your cinema history. You need to know who invented this or that. You need to know what film speed is, aperture, lens, lighting. You need to know makeup. You need to know production, film quality, film speed. You need to know your shit. You can't just show up in a movie and be like, well, I didn't like that, so blah, blah, blah. But that's, and be considered a professional film reviewer. With our YouTube culture, our Twitter culture, there are a lot of hurt feelings with fans and especially creators who are just maybe a little tired. I always come down, especially when it comes to empathizing with the comic book. I was just juggled my mic for a second for dramatic effect, and it dramatically cut out on me. As a chef, professionally, what I do for a living, and the impact that my production and my work, my labor has on my guests, my client, my customer, that I can feel for a comics writer or artist. And you can look at the editor and the editor-in-chiefs, such as your executive chef and your director of dining, or even the restaurant owner, stuff like that. There's a whole allegory here, and I respect that, and I can respect that. I would get really tired of hearing from my guests if it was all just negative. Like, man, just like, why don't you have this? Why don't you have that? Why aren't you making this? Oh, this is like, I'm so tired of this. And just, our kitchen's only so big. We can only make so many things. We can, we have a set, we're a specific kind of eatery, with specific hours in a specific location. There's only so much you can do with the resources available. And I can see a lot of, I have a lot of empathy for the comic book creator. So if I were to be dogpiled and always needled about my cooking and about my level of customer service, I mean, there's a point where just you begin to take it personally, I guess. But there are professional reviewers, like professional book reviewers, professional art historians, that we are not the hoi polloi, the ruffians, the faceless masses, the plebeians. I'm a blue-collar chef from the projects of South Boston, Massachusetts. I grew up poor, so, this is like, I don't know any better, So, but I do know good stuff from bad stuff. And so we had a few misses this week. So a literal miss was World's Finest number 13. They were already sold out on a Wednesday at a local comic book shop. And it's more to do with probably like not being stuck with unsellable copies. They can always get more a little later. There's actually, in Boston, there are several local comic book shops. So I know that, if you need a World's Finest, if you need 3 copies of World's Finest, number 13, to put in your shelves for next week, knowing that you had 8 people ask, and, you can call, the Magic Dragon in Arlington. They'll all right, we'll sell it to you, or however they arrange their deal. It's out there. And I just wait a few weeks, and that if I miss a copy of something on a new release day, it'll come back. I can also ask the staff if I want. They're going to try to sell me on a box, a pull box, a subscription, which comes with a discount. I should do that, but I like the shelves. I've never been one to have a pull list, and I did actually once, and I abandoned it because I got laid off of work, and I couldn't afford it anymore. And this was about 2004, 2005, and yeah, that was it was emotionally tough on me. I didn't like going. I started going back to that shop. It was New England Comics in Harvard Square. You know what I mean? After a few years, because I just felt shame. I felt shame that I bailed on my sub on my pull list on my box, and yeah, because the staff pulls that, curates that for you, and holds it for you in the hopes that you show up and live up to your end of the bargain. That and that if you do so, if you need to cancel your pull, please just call them. Send an email at this point or a text, but let them know. But like, hey, I need to cancel my pull box. I'm so sorry. Circumstances demand it. They don't need to know your life history. You just need to be honest with yourself and with your LCS. New England Comics recently closed several weeks ago. It's one of the first of probably many local comic book shops that will close in my Boston area, that's saturated with different comics book shops. And yeah, there are a few that I won't go into because they have a mask mandate. And, I understand that's your right. And I've had 3 booster shots. I've had 3 shots, 3 jabs. You're suggesting that the jab didn't work? I know. I just all I have are questions, but I don't want to wear a mask anymore. Mask mandates are over, and but if you can require that, I can respect that, and I'll be back when you don't have that. Let's look at my comic book. So yeah, they were out of World's Finest number 13. I got Exo Man of War, Unconquered from Valiant Comics, number 1, art by Liam Sharp, written by the husband-wife team known as Clunrad. That I know from all my buddies. I've never consciously read or bought a Becky Cloonan and Michael Conrad book. Now I have. I also got what's one of my favorites, Flash $7.95. It's part of the 1 Minute War that Jeremy Adams is leading up to issue number 800, and then he's going to move over to Green Lantern, and I'm looking forward to that a lot. But this is just as we like to say, written for the trade. So it's hard to have tension in a story that, it's hard to pay attention to the melodramatic B and C notes, because a lot of them have to be wrapped up by part 6 or part 8, depending on how long your arc is. So, and these eventually will be collected into the trade paperback. And Exo Man of War, number 1, I feel suffers from the same thing. Great art. I'm not the biggest Liam Sharp fan, and I'm not even knocking him either. It's a great artist. You know what I mean? He did a Green Lantern, 2 seasons of Green Lantern with Grant Morrison, one of my all-time favorites on DC Comics. But I just found this written for the trade, very blah, 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 and not enough fighting. I wanted to see Eric. I wanted to see the Exo Man of War. This, I remember getting Exo Man of War issue number 0 back in 1993, not knowing what the hell it was. My mom had taken in her best friend and her family. They had lost their house, here in the Sully projects, and the segregated racist Sully projects of the late 1980s and early 1990s specifically. Just getting over their, segregation, desegregating the projects. My mom from Dorchester, who always had, people of color, women of color in our life and in our home. We invited in her Peruvian best friend, their 2 kids, a 10-year-old boy and a 2-year-old daughter, and they lived with us for a whole year. And I thought, it's probably where I began to learn Spanish, and now develop a love for Spanish cuisine, because, she always cooked, and it was very good food. There was always something cooking. And so, yeah, we'll call him JJ. And JJ bought a lot of he was buying Deathmate, all right, and Deathmate Black, Deathmate White. Deathmate was this huge fucking thing between Valiant Comics and Image Comics. crossover between two universes with foil stamped covers, and so Valiant met their arrangement and published, while Image struggled mightily, and so it's known as like a failure, and but it had these magnificently beautiful, quintessentially 90s looking comic books, nice spine foil covers, new heroes, and these great superhero poses. This is nothing like those comic books. I wanted to return to that world off the bat too. I want to compare it with one of my old comics that I got. It might be an unfair comparison. Let's get to them. So yeah, I just found this a bit, mandatory, or it's at the end of Act 2, or it's the opening of Act 3. And it's just that these scenes in it. There's this scene. I mean, so written for the trade. It's not an. I don't mean to sound like an insult. It's just more. There's no tension. Really, I mean, I'm sorry. That's just my humble opinion as a comic book reader, lifelong comic book reader, 50 years old, and about 45 of those years have been in the clouds with capes and cowls. All right, who am I? Well, who am I? Am I a whale? I spent $76 on comic books 1 week. Does that make me a whale? The guy that keeps that helps keep the comic book shops afloat. I got 2 comics that were under 40 cents with a cover price. Okay, we're just going to go through these real quick, and then during the week I'm going to get into it. But right off the bat, I wanted to compare, the unfair comparison of this issue, this modern 2023 issue, to a 1976 issue number 4 of Ms. Marvel. This has more action, pound for pound, panel for panel. This is great. This is old school, Bronze Age. I am a Bronze Age baby. The Bronze Age went from 1970 to 1985. And that pretty much covers my entire childhood and formative years. Look at these art. I mean, just like, I'm going to get into this more during the week, but, oh, thank you. Turkey's done. There is fighting. You got Miss Marvel fighting on every page. And look at these panels. This is a really good condition. I got this for $8 if it wasn't one of the free ones. Love the ads. But yeah, this thing is just... This had more action and fight scenes, just like, than this. I mean, this is an unfair comparison. Issue 4, fourth part of a story, completing to issue 1 of probably 6, or maybe 3, or who knows. But it's Exo Man of War. I mean, don't we deserve some more than what we got? I mean, you'll get those in later issues. No, not me. I'm gonna pass. Sorry, but yeah, this is a really fun comic book. This was, yeah, because Carol Danvers was likable once. Carol Danvers was very heroic in a traditional sense once. Now it's all just something else. Let's see. Yeah, I got the New Mutants number 2. Okay, I didn't get this when I was a kid. I was 10 years old when this came out, May of 1983. And I love old-style Sentinels, and I've always loved the original New Mutants outfits because they resembled the original XMen outfits, the yellow and blacks. I love those. This is really good. And also, I found out an answer to a comic book shop-style conversation question I've had on my mind for literal decades. How to pronounce Wolfbane's name? Is it Ronnie? Is it Rahane? Is it Rain? Her name is Sinclair. Here we go. In issue 2. It's Rain. That's how you pronounce her name. But hey, look at all the diversity. We got diverse. This is, behold the diversity. Come on, we all know that 1982 Diversity representation was not invented until 2015. This didn't exist. That's why we have to have such a push for it and fix the past. Sully, you're an asshole. I had this when I was a kid. This is Flash 344. This is wonderful. This is from cover dated April of '85. I was 12 years old, and this might have also been taken away from me at school. I think this is Wally West, Kid Flash, having to get on the stand and testify against the Flash, Barry Allen, who was on trial for the murder of Reverse Flash, Professor Zoom, Ebed Thawne. Yes, who Barry did kill. Snapped his neck. And this was a huge issue. This was also, look, cover art and interior art by Carmine Infantino, the guy who designed this, who drew Showcase number 4 in 1956, the debut of Flash, who designed both Flash and Kid Flash's outfits. This is Carmine Infantino does interior arts here and the cover art, but this is also inked by Klaus Janson. Can't you see it? Can't you feel it? Can't you feel like the Daredevil part of it? That Frank Miller undertone? There's a little bit of Klaus Janson, a lot of it in Klaus Janson in all of that, and his inking is second to none. I can see it here. This was really good. I'm just going to burn through the rest. We're going to catch up during the week on this one. I don't want to get away too much. I got this. You know I'm a sucker for a Zero issue. This is 1994's Flash issue 0. It's really fun. I remember having this as a kid, or ones just like it, 35 cents. This is 1978. Brave and the Bold, Batman's team-up magazine. I also love how, look at that Batman. This is a Jim Aparo drawn issue, and Batman has a unified look over all the media. From comic book, from Batman, Detective Comics, The Brave and the Bold, Justice League of America, and any other appearance he had in DC Comics during the day. Then look over at Super Friends and The New Adventures of Batman and Robin on CBS, Saturday morning cartoons. Batman has a unified Bible look, and so does Aquaman. There are no different. It's not about selling different variants of the uniform, and it was about the syzygy, the corporate syzygy, perhaps, or it was just a bit in Superman too. I mean, there were no variants. There was just a very consistent, unified look. And I kind of miss it. And this made me just really realize it. Nailed it. Like, oh, wow. Like, that's Batman. That's a look. I grew up with that. This is from 1982. DC Comics Presents. I've always wanted this. I missed out on this one. Superman and Captain Marvel have a power switch, and they're in each other's uniforms. Great idea. This is a fun comic. The next three, let's see, I got X-Men 205, written by Chris Claremont and co-written by Barry Windsor Smith. Barry Windsor Smith does the art and the colors. And this was an amazing standalone issue about Wolverine being the best at what he does. And for one of these like crossover or backdoor pilots for Power Pack, a kid-related show. I got this just for the cover because it's a hollow foil. Yeah, this is Jim Lee's Wildcats, Volume 1, Issue number 2, and this one for $12, on the print. But look, I mean, I got this strictly for the Jim Lee art and that hollow foil. Look at that, fucking beautiful. I love comic books. I mean, I've even cracked it open. We're gonna look at it later during the week. And I got this. All right, Batman 618. Hush. This is Batman's fight with the false Jason Todd. Look at this Jim Lee art. I got this strictly for the Jim Lee cover art. I had these all in sequence when in its initial release when I came back into comics in 2001. because this came out in 2003, 2002, 2003. This was amazing. This is Batman Hush. This is legendary. We've been talking about comic books, and we're going to talk about comic books every day for the rest of the year. It's New Release Sunday that ended up a celebration. A disappointing New Release week ended up a celebration of old comic books, and maybe even saying, I might be a whale. I would prefer to be a dolphin, or to have some better porpoise than being all blubber. He writes the jokes. Don't blame me. Ding! You thought I forgot? No way. We didn't have any dings today. They're all beautiful comic books in pristine condition. Top shelf stuff. Baby, you deserve it. I deserve it. 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern. We talk about comic books. And please like and subscribe. I would love to earn your subscription. We make daily content here. We talk about comic books every day. Sundays we do new releases because I go to my local comic book shop every new release Wednesday now. It's a joy to return to my LCS and to help them keep them open. They're very important to our culture. When they're gone, they're gone. So do something about it now and enjoy the company and enjoy the comics. Thank you so very much. God bless. Namaste. Good luck. Like and subscribe, and I would love to see you again tomorrow in these funny pages. Ciao. Bye-bye.